You may begin.
All right, nothing like making them wait, right? Making you wait till the final hearing of the day. Well, thank you all for being here with us. I am Jen Howell. I am the co-executive director of Virginia Civics, and we are the home of the Virginia We the People program. And my fellow judges are?
Welcome and congratulations to you. My name is Tom Tinder and I'm an attorney from Charleston, West Virginia.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Caudillo, Senior Advisor at the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative in Washington, D.C.
And you are?
Hello, my name is Stella and I'm in 8th grade.
Hello, my name is Rory and I'm in the 7th grade.
Hi, my name is Ella and I'm in 8th grade, and these are our two coaches, Mike Wazelinski and Susan Cleveland.
Great. Thank you all so much. All right, so Stanley British Primary, we have question 1 for you today, right? All right, I will read the question pretty quickly and then you can start when you're ready. In the Virginia plan, James Madison proposed proportional representation in both houses of Congress. The delegates rejected Madison's proposal in favor of the Great Compromise. What is the Great Compromise and how was it justified? Do you think the founders' justification is acceptable today? Why or why not? What are the advantages and disadvantages of equal representation in the Senate? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of changing the Senate to proportional representation?
Learn the wisdom of compromise, for it is better to bend a little than to break. Jane Wells. The Great Compromise was the final compromise made by the delegates at the Philadelphia Convention. Because of a vast difference of opinion on representation, delegates feared a standstill, and that all progress made in writing a new constitution would be abandoned, leaving the country with the already proven to be weak Articles of Confederation.
A committee of delegates was therefore assigned the task of finding common ground between large states who wanted proportional representation and smaller states who wanted equal representation. This led to the Great Compromise, which passed by a single vote margin in July of 1787. A blend of Madison's Virginia plan and Patterson's New Jersey plan, the Great Compromise divided Congress into 2 chambers, providing equal representation in the Senate and proportional representation in the House of Representatives.
Although the Great Compromise was easily justified in its time, now almost 250 years later, it is outdated. In the moment, it was truly necessary to find common ground for delegates and states to move forward with a new constitution. By today's standards, the Great Compromise falls short in providing true representation of the people, with a larger and more diverse population than the founders could have ever anticipated.
Equal representation favors smaller states and has several advantages. First, smaller states have just as much control of the national government as larger states. Secondly, issues important to smaller states get more attention and money. And thirdly, equal representation allows for a smaller number of delegates to debate.
Some disadvantages of equal representation are a state with fewer people has a much more populous state, giving more power to the voice of individual people in small states. The body of representatives that does not reflect the current demographics of the country. Representing constituents is more challenging for a senator from a large state. For example, a senator in California represents about 20 million people, and a senator in Wyoming represents not even 300,000 citizens.
Equal representation does not always allow for the will of the majority to be honored. In the wake of the Newtown shooting in 2012, the Senate considered the Manchin-Toomey Amendment to endorse universal background checks for individuals wishing to purchase a firearm.
Quinnipiac polls indicated the public supported the measure overwhelmingly, 92%, as did gun owners, 91%. The amendment was shut down in the Senate by a vote of 54 to 46. Some of the senators who opposed it represented the 5 small states, who make up over just 1% of America's population.
In the Senate, when trying to get 51 votes to pass a bill, every vote counts. That's when the smaller states can demand amendments and additions to bills to look out for their own state's interest, giving disproportionate voice to citizens in smaller states. Moving to proportional representation in the Senate would bring about a different set of advantages and disadvantages. Advantages include providing more voice to individuals in larger states, thus allowing different voices to be heard, correcting a system of true representation, correcting a heavy unjustified bias in the Senate favoring white citizens, and our country could address the inconsistency of the Electoral College, moving towards more equal representation and opportunity for the voice of all citizens. Disadvantages. Changing to proportional representation requires a change to the Constitution that some would argue is unconstitutional. Small states would have to give up the power that they currently hold.
Similarly to the Electoral College, equal representation in the Senate is outdated and takes away from individual and varied voices being heard. Equal representation in the Senate leaves many groups significantly underrepresented while giving disproportional powers to others, going exactly against the original intent of equal representation. We believe that it is time to bend again so as not to break. In 20 years, about half of the population will live in 8 states. If the senators from the 8 most populous states, representing 50% of the population, favored something, but senators from the 42 smaller states opposed it, it would fail, 84-16. This is not an unbiased, accurate reflection of the people being governed. We are now open for questions.
All right, thank you. All right, so you're saying it's time to bend so we don't break. What if we just grab another stick? So let's say, let's toss out our system that we have under the Great Compromise. You know, what would you do based on today's population and today's size of population and diversity? What do you propose the ideal representation system to look like?
I think that an ideal representation system would involve more people, because the more opinions that you have and the more diversity that you have can enable our country to hear the voice of all citizens rather than a smaller group of people.
Following along on that, we currently have 2 major political parties. And there are some countries that have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 political parties to get more input from more diverse segments of the population. Do you think that we should have more political parties in the United States? Why or why not?
I think we should have more political parties in the United States because not everyone fits into the 2 categories. And you're making people decide between 2 when sometimes those opinions don't match up with our Americans. So I think by having more political parties, you're giving more choice, and you're able to find a candidate that fits everybody and not just 2 groups of people.
Adding on to my panel mate, I completely agree, because I don't think that everyone has the specific Democrat or Republican point of view. I think some people are in the middle and they're forced to choose a person that they want to vote on because of their political party. So I think adding more political parties would help benefit the opinions of everyone.
Adding on to both of my panel mates, I think that if we did add more parties, but even if we didn't, I think we just need to rely a little bit less on the title of the party and more on our ideas and our beliefs, because at the end of the day, it's more important than a name.
You discussed this near the end of your presentation, but let's dig much deeper into it. And so if you're in the driver's seat and you're able to make the change or not, in your opinion, should we change the Constitution to make representation in the Senate based on population? Why or why not?
Can you please restate the question?
Definitely. And so if you were in a driver's seat, you were one of the folks who could make the change. Should we change the Constitution to make the representation in the Senate based on population or proportional? Why or why not? So this is your opinion on this, whether we should do it or not.
I think we should, because there are so many people whose voices aren't being heard, and there are people like in California, which is a much more diverse state than a place like Nebraska. Their voices and their needs are not being heard. So if we change to proportional representation, that could allow so many people to have their voice heard, which is really what our country about. You know, we the people. It's all of us, not just a small group of us.
Adding on to my panel mate, I completely agree. I think it's important to represent everybody and not just make it the same for everybody, because we have, based on state, there's different populations. And so like there's smaller states that need less representation because they have a smaller population. And there's bigger states that need more help and more representation because there's more people that live in that state.
So can you evaluate for me how well represented you think your state is in the current system?
I think that based on our state relies a lot on its local governments rather than the federal government. For example, we legalized marijuana, the use of marijuana. We legalized gay marriage before a ton of other states did, and before it's becoming legal on a federal level. So our representation is, I think it's good, but I think what's better is that we rely so much on our state's government.
Adding on to my panel mate, I agree. I definitely think that we rely on our state's government, and that's why we made all these independent like laws and like things that were being passed, like marijuana, like my panel mate said. So I think that it's our representation is pretty well represented, but I think what's important is that we rely a lot on our state's government.
You just mentioned a few moments ago Nebraska, and I want to ask you a question about Nebraska. As I'm sure you're aware, Nebraska is the only state that has only one legislative body. They are unicameral, whereas the other states have a bicameral legislature with a House and a Senate. Should more states adopt that unicameral legislative model? Why or why not?
I believe that in a state that is as small as Nebraska, that might fit their population better. But as you get to these larger states, I think you need a bicameral system, because you need two different places. You need checks and balances in this way that can support all of the people, rather than Nebraska, which has a smaller number of people.
My next question is, in response to my earlier question, it was mentioned that we need to have something that's more proportional because there are people's voices who are not being heard. Can we be more specific about whose voices aren't being heard right now? So just in your opinion, whose voices aren't being heard?
I believe that the residents of Washington, D.C., as well as the other U.S. protected areas, their voices are not being heard because they don't have representation in the Senate. They have a seat in the House, or multiple seats in the House, but a state like Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. meets all of the requirements to be a state. It has 730,000 residents. The size is the limitation on the size of the capital that was placed in the Constitution. It fits those sizes. It just doesn't have the representation that it deserves.
Oh. All right. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I particularly like how much you guys are able to bring the strands of this forward, right? You're able to talk about everything that's going on today. There was something one of you said about, more people equals more voices, and this is a good thing. And you guys basically summarized Federalist 10 without, you might have known it, but maybe without even knowing it. Madison tended to think that our greatest strength was our diversity, and the way to counteract this tendency to group ourselves into factions was to have more factions, right? And that was exactly the kind of theorizing that you were doing in that presentation. And I really appreciated your answer about, like, we might not be totally represented in the federal government, but that doesn't quite matter as much because we are so focused on the state and local. And that's actually an argument that I didn't hear a lot today. And I love that you were able to place this conversation, put this conversation on multiple levels. So I think that was very well done. And I like some of your examples. I would say, in the follow-up, when you're giving your opinion in response to a question, just always try to have some kind of example to back that up, because that just really strengthens, what is already a very strong statement. So thank you for everything you've done in preparation for this competition. I am so looking forward to our conversation tomorrow.
First of all, kudos to your teachers and coaches for a job very well done. I really enjoyed your initial presentation too. It was very educated and very professional. It was just very well done. You had lots of information you provided to us, and you specifically responded to all those questions that we gave to you in the sub questions. So your initial presentation was very well done. I enjoyed, and of course, I have to make a comment. You're going to get an extra point from me because you used a great example about Newtown, and you used a great example about that Mansion Toomey Amendment, which I'm very familiar with, and that was right on point to the point that you were making. So that was excellent. I want to say to you that based upon your presentation, you've got the knowledge, and I felt a couple times that when we ask you our questions, that you were searching for the right answer, and there's no right answer, and there's no wrong answer. It is your answer, and can you back it up? And there's no question that you have the knowledge and the education to give your point of view, whatever, because almost all of our questions we say why or why not. So, it's an opinion question. It's not asking you what day is today, where there's a right answer and a wrong answer. It's what's your opinion? Can you back it up? So don't hesitate that when you get that question, whether you have the same response as your teammate and you add on to it by citing another example or additional piece of information, but don't hesitate. Don't be thinking, oh, what are they looking for, or what's the right answer? You got the knowledge. All you have to do is just give us your opinion, because we know you're opinionated and you've got opinions. Overall, I thought you did a very good job. Congratulations to you, and please continue to use all that knowledge you have and your leadership skills that you have in your school and in your community and in your state. We need leaders like you. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
I want to say, commend you on a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your opinions on issues that we're going to be talking about for a while. And even when you become voting age, I mean, those are the issues that'll still be up there as well. And so it's important to get ahead and know about these issues ahead of time. And then you're able to share them, not just here on We the People national competitions, but also with your friends and family and all throughout. Thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. Like the responses and the questions. And just an enhancement, just to enhance it. I like how you start off with a quote to begin with your presentation. It'd be neat if you're able to end it with another quote, able to tie it in, or even revert back to the original quote as well about all that you've been talking about. I think it's just more of presentation enhancement. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it and look forward to hearing your second presentation tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Great job.